Hello. So through this video, we'll understand one of the most crucial, most asked question in every interview. Almost all of the interview that I faced had this question asked to me, which is decorator pattern in Python, right? So let's just quickly deep dive into it. Just a quick explanation. What is expected from you? That you should start explaining a decorator pattern with certain keywords term. So a decorator is a kind of design pattern in Python, which we utilize to enhance an existing functionality of a particular function or a particular block scope. By that, what we mean, there is a nature, or there is a requirement wherein you do not want to change the existing functionality or the existing code base that is already written inside your whatever implemented function, but you still want to enhance the overall functionality of this particular function. The real life use case example could be, like, let's say you have declared a sample demo function, and now you need to log the time of it, how much time that particular function is taking. Second real life example could be, like, let's say you are doing some kind of calculation through a particular function, and this calculated function block scope that you have implemented has some amount value in the constant parameter, right? That is not part of the parameter per se, that is residing inside your block scope itself. Now there is a sudden change from either your client or whatever. There can be different factors associated with it. So depending upon the scenario, now instead of that constant value, you need to increase the value up to certain percentage level, right? So all of this is a perfect use case example of implementing a decorator pattern. One more basic example could be, and that you can use to demo whenever someone asks you to implement it, is like, let's say if a particular function is just giving you string, returning you a string in smaller case, uh, by applying a decorator pattern, you can basically return the whole string in the uppercase. So yeah, all this explanation at the initial level is needed, like this decorator pattern is implemented to enhance the existing functionality of the overall function scope, uh, and this is due to the nature of a requirement wherein we are not expected to change the existing code altogether, but we need to enhance it. So I'll begin with the very basic demo of this thing. We will have a string in smaller case, and we will convert it to uppercase using decorator. So let me have this sample decorated func. This accepts one input str shadabsk. This goes here. This function accepts this input, and this function simply returns it, right? Now in order to decorate this function, we need to use the syntax at the rate. Now the syntax, here you are expected to write your decorator, so here I can do sample decorated func, right? Now I will declare this as function only, and this is the syntax of how you declare any decorator. This function sample decorated func takes the function as an argument. Inside this we have this thing called as closure, so you can write any name. It is not a hard and fast rule that you need to write wrapper only, any name is fine. So inside this we create a closure function that accepts args and kwargs. We'll come to it a bit more into depth, like how all of these things are functioning. First of all, let us just understand the basic thing. Now you execute this function. So basically whatever this function was passed internally by Python as a parameter, this is now being executed here. Args, sorry, kwargs. Now our problem definition, instead of uh, this returning just the smaller case, we will now return as the uppercase, and finally we return the wrapper, which is the closure function. We can print this, and this should do. I'll execute my code, right? Okay, this was about the very basic demo, but this doesn't really reflect on how all of these things are functioning. And I have seen many experienced developer also, and that includes me also. Time and again, I fumbled and I didn't knew how actually this whole decorator pattern is functioning. So let us get more into depth of the things. Let me create a new file, and this file would be uh, parameterized decorator for square. Okay, so we create again the same function, sample decorated func. What this will do, this will accept two things. One is the normal input element, that can be two, and second is the keyword argument. This would be like, let's say, quark demo. I'm using the variable just for the descriptive purposes. Quark demo equal to 4. Okay, now I again use the same syntax. Now here, this is like the args digit, let's say. So whatever we pass using this syntax, this is the args. So we can directly accept this by using this args, and which is what we were doing here. So any argument that is being passed not via this syntax but just via this syntax, this is accepted in the form of args, and in the form of tuple. So if you do args of 0, you will get 2. If you do args of 1, you will get whatever other value that is passed over here, right? uh, but if we simply directly accept this particular digit, so args digit for example, so this is automatically implicitly destructured, and basically this is internally doing args of 0 for us. And I will not do the destructure of this particular thing. I can like dynamically accept whatever keyword argument is being passed to this particular function. Let me return args of digit plus kwargs dot get. If we are getting this thing, so whatever thing that we pass in the kwargs, that gets accepted as basically kwargs dot get. Basically this is the dictionary. So if we get anything, well and good. If we don't get, we can just uh, initialize it with the value of 2, right? uh, Before decorating anything, let me execute and show how this thing is working. Sorry, I forgot print statement. Okay, so basically 2 plus 4 equals 6. And like, let's say if we do not pass this, so this is what the dynamic arguments in python means. It directly initialized it to 2, and this gave me something like this. Now what I aim to achieve is, I aim to achieve the decorated func, right? So I will have sample decorator. Let me keep it simple for the time being. Sample decorator. This accepts the function. This will expect to have the closure. This will accept args and qwrgs, right? Now here is what I wanted to share with you guys. Return wrapper, return something we are about to return. So the way all of this thing is getting executed, whenever you call sample decorated func and you apply a decorator to it, now the context of the execution directly and internally implicitly calls the sample decorator that was decorated here, right? Now whatever we pass on here, that can be directly accessed through here. So for example, if I do print args and if I do print qwargs, right? uh, Let me not return anything, and let us just find out that what is happening here, right? So here, as you can see, we were able to get whatever was passed to this function directly over here by means of args and qws args, which act as a uh, dynamic argument within the closure scope. Now as you can see here, the by default return, even though we are returning something, but by default return is none, because now that we have decorated it, we need to return something because the whole context execution has reached here. That is why we wrote result is equal to func. And here we again, when we write args and kwrgs, what we are doing, we are basically calling this function. Now the context has reached here, and from here the function is getting called, not directly through here. So again I'll repeat, whenever you call a decorated function, Python implicitly checks the decorator, the flow reaches here, and the actual execution is now happening here, not through here, right? So now again, if I do return result, this will do my job. Now what I need to do, this doesn't serve the purpose of a decorator, this is okay for the demo purpose, but for example, we need that whatever argument was passed through here, consider this as a constant value, right? Now we want a functionality wherein this is whatever args digit is passed, that should be a square of that particular digit, right? So there are multiple ways of doing it. You can destructure it like this, args of 0, and you can do args of into 2, basically the square only, right? Otherwise you can simply do args of 0 into 2, the shortened notation. So now what is happening, uh, as soon as your context reaches here, now you are calling this function by enhancing the parameter that was supposed to get passed as 2. Now the parameter is getting passed as 4, right? And if I'll execute this, right, accordingly the whole scope changes. So yeah, this is the crucial most information that many of the experienced developer also lack the knowledge. Now there is one more thing called as parameterized decorator within this thing. So for instance, let's say we wanted one more thing not being passed within this decorated function, but we want one more parameter that should get added. So what you can do, you utilize this syntax and pass that thing. So here, let's say we want the value to be 2. So here this act as a parameterized parameter that is passed as a parameterized decorator, right? Now the whole thing changes. We again create this whole scope as a closure. So similarly, how we have done wrapper, how we have implemented wrapper as a closure scope, the whole thing becomes a closure scope. So here we do sample decorator parameterized decorator. This accepts one parameter, correct? This whole thing gets inserted here, and we return sample decorator. I hope this can be a bit overwhelming at the initial level, but once you implement it once or twice, this becomes quite easy, right? So again I'll do control Z to make you aware how I did this, right? Earlier we had this particular syntax and we didn't found any issue. This was fairly an intuitive explanation. basically enhance this decorator, because we do not, we like, let's say we have a constraint that we cannot accept any argument here, we cannot change any code here, we can only change the code at the decorator level. So here we pass on again a 2, or let's pass on 3 for instance, for a better demo. Now we decorated this thing, sample parameterized decorator, and we accepted this parameter. We created this whole thing that was inserted as a closure scope now, and we return the sample decorator. Now instead of this sample decorator, you are expected to decorate it with sample parameterized decorator. So how internally the things will happen, by default the context reaches sample parameterized decorator. Your whole sample decorator remains the same, that accepts the function as an argument, the whole process will be the same only. Now while we are returning result, we can print return result plus param. Okay, yeah. So that's it. This is the thing that you should be aware of. First thing is the basic explanation. You can use this string based syntax wherein you are doing the uppercasing. Then you should be aware of how this, why this args, twrgs, and you should be able to demo this kwargs demo, something like this, right? Then finally you should be aware of parameterized decorator and how the things are functioning. I hope this video was useful for you. Thank you.